Hi there, it's Baz at GotAUkulele. Happy New Year, and what better way to kick off 2014 with another GotAUkulele instrument review. Look at this tiny little thing. I've been looking for a Sopranino or pocket ukulele for some time now, and my desire to do that really strengthened in the middle of last year at a ukulele festival in Britain, where a lot of people, it seemed everyone, seemed to be playing ukes, which are tiny little things that are tuned full octave above a soprano. But you know what? Sorry to say it if you own an uke, but I really don't like them. I don't like that tuning. I don't like the necks on them. I find them uncomfortable. I don't think they sound particularly good. So I'm pretty down on them, really. So I went off the idea, was looking at Carla and looking at an Ohana, and then at the Grand Northern Ukulele Festival in October last year, UK performer, and he was on the bill, Phil Dolman, called me over and said, have a look at what I've bought from the Southern Ukulele Store stand, and he took out of his bag one of these, which is retailed at that festival, I think, just over £100, and I fell in love with it. Immediately went over to the Southern Ukulele Store stand, asked them if they got any more in to let me know, because I want one. They did just that, and here it is. This is a John Daniel Pixie Sopranino. John is an independent luthier, private luthier, who builds in small numbers out of Caerphilly in beautiful South Wales, making this my first Welsh ukulele, and it's a tiny, pretty little thing. This is made out of all solid mahogany, completely hand-built and finished by John. I'm told the mahogany comes from some furniture or some such that is extremely old. I'm talking hundreds of years old, which makes it feel nice to me. I like things like that. Fairly standard shape, pretty subtle curving, not too deep here, no big butt, as is probably in keeping with the Sopranino. Fairly standard rosewood tie bar bridge, plastic saddle, little white detail on there, fluorocarbon strings. Have a look at the detailing around the sound hole. I think that's great. I've never seen anything like that. And it's really nice to see people doing something a bit different. And that's inlaid in the wood. They're not stickers. They're real inlays. The grain on the sides, nice and straight and matching, no curl. And same with the back, which is pretty flat. I don't think it has got a curl. It is pretty flat. And the top and the back, being such a small instrument, are single pieces of wood. Really pretty. The neck is where it really comes into its own as well. That's a beautifully shaped neck. Nice little rosewood cap there on the heel. It's got a shallow profile, but most importantly for me, it's got a pretty wide nut. In fact, this is as wide as, if not wider, than some sopranos that I've seen. There's a common myth that goes around that beginners should go with concerts because there's more space to play and it's easier. That's absolute rubbish. The difference in the scale on the frets between a soprano and concert is pretty small. What does make a ukulele easier to play is the width of the nut, and this is where, for me, the uke fails, because I found it quite cramped because it's quite narrow up at the top. This is the same as any soprano. It is a little more cramped with the frets being a bit closer together, but you don't really notice it that much, to be honest, and you've still got it's that width from there to there that matters. The fingerboard as well is a beautifully crafted thing. We have a nice little bit of shaped detail at the end. 12 nickel frets, white fretboard markers. Sadly, no fretboard markers for the player, but I can forgive it on a neck of this scale. You're not really going to get lost. But it's the rolled fingerboard edges. They're curved. You don't have a sharp edge to the wood here. And you really only see that on ukuleles that can cost, £1,000. So to get it on a little instrument that's £100 is a really nice attention to detail that shows that John cares about what he's doing. The nut is plastic and set just fine, and the top is unfaced. This is mahogany with a nice little detail there. It's a little bit off center, but there's other marks on here to show that it's handmade. You can see some of the tooling marks, you can see some of the sanding marks. These friction tuners are not the tuners that came on it. That's my only gripe I had with the instrument. They were friction tuners. You wouldn't want anything other than friction tuners on a uke of this size. The ones that John shipped it with, they were really, really sticky. They used plastic on plastic for the friction, and I found them jerky, and when tuning, the notes were shooting over and backwards. I had these lying around. They're not much better, certainly not much more in price, but they work much more smoothly. And if John sees this, I'd suggest a slight upgrade in the tuners. But that's nitpicking, really. It wouldn't cost you a lot to do that yourself. It is a cute little Pixie ukulele. It's also got a ton of volume. And I had to play around with tunings to find out what I wanted. I tried it with some Aquila piccolo strings tuned up to that whole octave above, like the I-ukes, and very quickly came to the conclusion that I cannot stand a ukulele that's tuned quite that high. This is actually tuned in F tuning, so that makes this string, the third string, the F. I'm running down from the top to the bottom, C, F, A, D. C, F, A, D. You don't have to go that way. It's a few steps up from G, C, E, A. You could take it down. You could try G, C, E, A. The strings may be a little bit floppy on it, but it's for playing around with. Of course, that doesn't mean you need to change the chord shapes for the notes, but because you're tuning up in exactly the same steps, so the relationship between the strings is the same, the shapes are the same, but the chords change, a bit like playing a baritone instead of a tenor. But that's not a big problem. I didn't think. It's got a great little sound. I actually played this at a jam night with some of the band, and it kind of fits right in. I even think about putting a pickup in it. Why not? But really, it's this neck. The neck is so comfortable to play. Full marks there to John, but it looks great too. This is a talking point. It's the sort of ukulele you'll get out and people will ask you, who made that? It doesn't have the usual brand names on the top. It costs about the same as a lot of the brand name ukuleles, and you know that it's been made by some guy in his workshop with a lot of care and attention, just for you. Well done, John. I think these are great. I hope you keep making these and get more down to Southern Ukulele Store, which is where you should get in touch if you're interested in getting hold of one. I'd certainly recommend it.